What are the valid praying times for Fajr, Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha? And when does it become Qada? What is the time until when the Isha prayer can be prayed and it's witr? The question is clear. We have 5 prayers per day. And each prayer has a time of beginning and a time of end. Where do I get this from? From Sahih al-Imam Muslim and from other hadiths where the Prophet ﷺ told us that Jibreel came over 2 days. In the first day, he prayed at the beginning of the time of each fard prayer, leading the Prophet ﷺ. And on the second day, he prayed 5 fard prayer at the end of time. And then he said to the Prophet ﷺ, prayer times are between those 2. So what are they? In Islam, prayer times are identified by the sun, the position of the sun. So even if I don't have a watch, I still have the sun to tell me when to pray. So even if I'm airborne, I'm flying 40,000 feet above sea level, I pray according to the position of the sun, not according to the position of the country below me or the country of origin or my destination. No. So what are the prayer times according to the Prophet ﷺ? We begin with Fajr. Fajr comes after the darkness of night. When it's pitch black, it's night. 2 o'clock a.m., 3 o'clock a.m. When it's approaching 4 o'clock and I can see that this pitch black, there is a horizontal white line from the east. That is, the sun is about to come, so I can see the blackness of the night is divided by a horizontal, not vertical, a horizontal line over the horizon of white. This is the time of Fajr, the beginning. So now I can pray. And this time ends when the tip of the sun rises. Khalas. Time of Fajr is over. The minute that the tip of the sun rises, the time of Fajr is over. In between is the time of Fajr. The time of Dhuhr begins when the sun leaves the zenith. Whoa, what is this? I'll tell you what is this. The sun is coming up from the east. If I have an erected object, like a stick or a pole, I'd find that when the sun comes up, there is a very long shadow of this pole headed to the west. So the sun comes up and the shadow becomes shorter, shorter, shorter. It's getting closer to the erected object until the sun stands just over the zenith, where the object almost has no shade. Once the sun heads towards the west and there is a small shadow of this object to the east, this is the time of Dhuhr. How long is it? Doesn't matter. As long as the shadow from the west got shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, and now it's getting a little bit increased in length, immediately this is time of Dhuhr. Interesting. When does it end? The Prophet tells us, when the shade of an erected object becomes equal to its length, then this is the end of Dhuhr and the beginning of Asr. So if the object is a meter long, and we see that the shade is getting longer and longer and longer towards the east, once the shade becomes a meter long, this is the end of Dhuhr the adhan of Asr is given. Finished? Yeah, sure, no problem. When does Asr time begin? You tell me, Einstein. I just told you. When the length of the erected object is equal to it, when the length of the shadow is equal to the length of the erected object, khalas. This is time for Asr. Okay, when does it end? Now, Asr is a tricky situation because it has two times. Time of recommendation and time of necessity. The time of recommendation, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that it is from when the shadow is equal to the length of an erected object till when the sun becomes yellow. So when the sun fades and you can look at it without being blinded, from white it becomes yellow. And some say that this is when the shadow of an erected object is twice its length. But this is not that strong. It's an estimated time. So this is the time of recommendation. This is when you should pray your Asr. And from that time of the sun becoming yellow till sunset, this is the time of necessity. So if someone had an urgent thing to do, could not leave class except at the time of necessity, pray your Asr. If he was at a hospital, seeing the doctor, something of necessity, this is permissible. When does Maghrib start? When Asr time ends. When does Asr time ends? When the sun totally disappears. Then this is the time for Maghrib to begin. Now, if the sun, of course the sun is setting here, we stated that east is here and west is here. So if the sun disappears, then this is time for Maghrib. And once the sun disappears, in the horizon there will be the twilight, the redness of the twilight. And this identifies the time of Maghrib. So from sunset until the redness disappears, this is the time of Maghrib. Once the redness in the twilight goes away and it becomes black, this is time for Isha. And till when is it for Isha? Until midnight. Does it have to do with Cinderella and changing the cart into a pumpkin? No. Midnight for us Muslims is different than midnight of Cinderella, whatever she calls. I don't know if she changed her name into a Mexican or whatever. Cinderella. So their midnight is 12 o'clock. Our midnight is different. Why? Because our midnight varies and changes. To calculate our midnight, you have to see the time of sunset till the break of dawn. How many hours? Divide them into 2 and add the result to the time of Maghrib. This is when midnight is. Example, sunset is at 7 p.m. and the break of dawn is at 3 a.m. What's the difference? 8 hours. From 7 till 3, this is 8 hours of night. Divide them into 2. We have 4 hours. Add the 4 hours to the 7 of sunset, you get the midnight to be 11. Meaning that a lot of the women home think that 12 is the last time for Isha. So they pray 5 minutes to 12. Your prayer is invalid. It's not accepted. Because you've exceeded midnight, which is 11. And this is why it is important for women to understand this. Sometimes midnight can be 11:45. It can be 10 minutes after 11. It can be earlier. It can be late, depending on the span of the night. From sunset till the break of dawn. It's not from Isha till the break of dawn. It's not from sunset to sunrise. It is from sunset to the break of dawn, to the time of Fajr. So, in short, this is how I know when to pray according to what the Prophet had told me, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.